not so much.
Oh, okay.
So if you would, you know where Vance Road, okay, if you turn right down Vance and head west, the first or second road on the left-hand side is...
This is the December regular meeting of the Grand Traverse County Parks and Recreation Commission. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kim, are you doing the roll today?
I am.
Please.
Bob Karstens.
Here.
Russell Clark.
Here.
Peter Doran.
Here.
Bill Dorier.
Here.
John Galbraith is excused. Scott Joseph.
Here.
Al Larson is excused. Kevin McEllier.
Here.
Dave Taylor and Chris Maxbauer are excused.
I believe we have just barely a quorum here. This is the first public comment opportunity. Cyclocross is going to be a little bit later if you're here for that. But if anybody would like to speak at this point, if you'd come to the podium and identify yourself by name and address. Okay, no one for the first public comment. We'll go right to the cyclocross. Jason?
Guys, why don't you come on up? Wanted to have our cyclocross enthusiasts come on up and answer any questions. Since our last meeting, as you recall, these guys presented kind of talked a little bit about what cyclocross is and the possibility of having a track out at the Vasa Trailhead. I've walked the track with these guys. I've talked with Dennis Aloya as suggested by this commission, and I'm kind of waiting for our Risk Management Association to contact me in regards to what we can do to minimize our risk out there, although it would be very similar to the ways we minimize risk with our skate park, and it's something that our department would be very willing to manage in conjunction with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association. As I said, I've not heard back from them at this point, but would expect an answer sometime in the near future. Dennis Aloya suggested that he thought this was a very appropriate use for the facility, and or he gave his approval of this as long as management continues to work with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association. I asked these guys to come answer any questions that any of you may have had since our last meeting. They have given me a letter of recommendation, a letter in support from the Cherry Capital Cycling Club for cyclocross to actually take place out at the Vasa Trailhead. And in moving forward with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association, I think it's appropriate for us to move forward in allowing these guys to utilize that property for cyclocross.
Okay, thanks very much. Could you fellas introduce yourself? And I wasn't at the last meeting, and you're on TV, so if you could tell us what cyclocross is exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm Jason Lowitz. I live at 1253 Smith Road, Traverse City.
I'm Jason Whitaker at 415 Fair Street, Traverse City.
Rick Morris, 20830 City Hall.
Okay. And what is cyclocross?
Well, basically, it's a type of bike riding, bike racing. It's kind of a mixture. Sure. It's very similar to mountain biking or road riding. It's kind of a combination of the two. What kind of makes it different from all the other types of cycling is that it basically takes place off-road, but in a kind of a small, short track area. So the course that we're proposing at the Vasa Trailhead is basically like a 1.5-mile course that utilizes just the dirt road, the dirt trails and the grass and things of that nature. And so the racing aspect of it just basically goes over that same course, for 30 minutes to an hour.
Is it seasonal? You just do it in the summer, or?
No, actually, it's, we can do it pretty much all year. At some point, there's going to probably be too much snow. We do what we can there, but the main season would probably be summer and then fall.
Okay, thanks. I'll open it up for discussion.
Will additional parking be required at the Vasa Trailhead to facilitate your needs?
No, I don't think so. I mean, right now, especially, cyclocross is kind of a new sport, especially in the Traverse City area. So, there's, especially compared to mountain biking, it's way fewer people. So I don't think parking would be a problem at all.
The parking lot there doesn't fill up much except in the winter.
Okay.
In the summer, occasionally, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times, there will be some kind of a hiking event or something like that, and people gather. But it's not very often a crowded parking lot when it's not winter time.
Yeah.
Will you be hosting regional events that will draw numerous people to the area? Anticipated that in the future?
Right. Well, I mean, that would be the hope that,
Okay.
in the future we could have some events there. Obviously it would be depending on, how it goes, but, yeah, that would be the thing we would like to do, is have some events there at some point where we could bring people in. Absolutely.
Are there other cyclocross courses in the region?
Not permanent courses, no. This is kind of a newer thing. There is a couple of them popping up around the country. Right now, the best example would probably be Louisville, Kentucky. They put a permanent cross course in there, and they're actually worked with the city, and now they're actually going to be having the Cyclocross World Championships there in 2012 and 2013, which is a pretty big deal because it's the first time it's actually been outside of Europe. So that's probably the best example of where, this permanent course is really going to bring in, a substantial amount of money for an area. And it's getting to be a pretty popular sport in the U.S., so it's slowly starting to grow and grow, and so these courses are going to, I think, kind of pop up in more and more places. So, we're hoping to kind of be a little bit ahead of that, the rest of the country in that respect.
What kind of participation do you anticipate in Traverse City area?
It's tough to say. I mean, I haven't lived here long enough. I've only been here about 2.5, 3 years, but it's a very strong cycling community. Obviously with events like the Iceman, where you've got 4,000 people coming for a bike race, that's obviously quite unusual, and it takes quite a while. It's after 30 years, but it's something that we'd be happy to have 100, 150 people in the next couple of years, and then kind of go from there. So, but we think it has a lot of potential to get pretty popular and to help bring a lot of people to the area. So.
Relative to equipment, I think if I recall briefly, there was some stationary equipment and portable equipment involved with your obstacle course. Is that material going to need to be stored somewhere when it's not in use, or is it going to be left on site all the time?
I mean, the preference would be if we could just leave it there, because it's basically just the wooden barriers that will probably be only in like 2 small sections. They're not very big, and they're very easily portable, so if it's something that we had to move, it's easily movable, certainly.
Do you envision a need for storage facilities?
No. It's hard to imagine that we would need something like that.
What was the size of this course? I mean, you gave us a really nice set of drawings and things like that, but in terms of acres, how much is this going to take up?
The course in itself is 2.5 to 3.5 kilometers.
That's distance of...
We have approximately 40 acres out there, and this would fit well within our property out there.
It's a small area, like, because it twists and turns. I mean, it may be, the 2 kilometers long, whatever, but it doesn't cover, I don't know the actual acreage. I wish I knew that.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how the course is laid out would definitely impact the acreage that would be taken up. Currently, the area that this would be in is a typically fairly unused portion of that piece of property.
Yeah, I remember that, and it's also a kind of a rough piece of property that's already had some use.
It has already had some use, and it's actually, because of the I guess, I don't want to say it's really a rugged piece of property, because it certainly doesn't have mountains or anything in it, but it is the ruggedness of the property is something that falls right in line with the needs that these guys would have.
Okay. I was just looking for a footprint size.
There was a BMX course there.
Yeah, there was a BMX
previously, and
Well, maybe that's the way to phrase the question. Is it going to go much beyond where that course was and how it existed? Is it going to be bigger than that?
Yeah, that was a pretty small area. The BMX course, I don't know, was maybe 100 feet by 100 feet. But it's I wish we knew the actual.
It would take up more space than that, and it would actually theoretically go into the woods, which the BMX course did not previously. And that's in order to provide some different obstacles and some different type of terrain that would be important to cyclocross into having the track out there. As I mentioned in the last meeting, I guess the ground disturbing activity with this would be minimal. The maintenance on this would be removing dead brush, removing leaves and things like that in the forested area, and some mowing in the areas with long grass. So the actual ground disturbing, the ground moving that's going to be occurring here is minimal, unless we were able to find some regional or larger races, which, in order for the growth to happen, I wouldn't foresee that even within the next year in a situation like this.
Sorry to interrupt you. Who's going to take care of the maintenance? I saw these gentlemen last time mention minimal maintenance, and that was the concern that was brought up last time. Who's going to manage the maintenance? Is it facilities, or is it this group, and through an arrangement? Has that been decided?
It would be this group through Einstein Racing, which is Jason's racing team. They work to some degree. I'm not going to put McLean Cycles on the hook for maintaining this, but they do have some affiliation with McLean. So it is a reputable organization, a reputable company, a reputable local company that we could call on in the event that there was an issue out there. There are some old BMX parts, or some old BMX obstacles and things like that. Our facilities management, I will have them, if this is approved, I'll have our facilities management actually go remove those, because they are in disrepair, and I wouldn't want a volunteer group going out there to remove those because of their state of disrepair.
Is the area still free for anybody to use when you're not using it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we welcome, obviously, as many people as possible, and
Because I can see youngsters who had been using that BMX area. Some continued to use, maybe not the equipment, but the area. Being out there again at times.
I've spoken to a couple of the BMX riders. There's only 2 that I think even go out there anymore, and they were all for it. They thought it was really cool, and we're not actually messing with the jumps that they have.
Right.
In fact, we were recently approached about the same time Jason came to us asking about this. I was also approached by the Traverse City Central cross-country ski team to host the state cross-country ski finals at Vasa Trailhead, and one of the areas that they talked about utilizing was the start and finish area, or the flat area out in this property, because they're cross-country. They're going to be here, in the dead of winter, where that you have enough snow that cyclocross may not be occurring out there. It's something that they would be able to utilize that area as well. So it certainly wouldn't prohibit other activities from occurring on that piece of property.
I'm in support of this. I think it's a great use of the property. I think, we've met on this a couple of times and addressed a couple of the concerns. I'm hearing that, I was looking for the director's recommendation, and it appears indirectly I'm hearing that you're recommending to go with this, but are we premature without risk management's blessing and/or a maintenance agreement? How do you want to?
I don't think that we're premature in allowing this because, and I'll be completely frank, these guys could go out there and do this without us even knowing. It's something that we would, this is something that could be done in a very passive way that we may never know about. I mean,
What exactly is the action that is expected of this commission?
the commission is just expected to, I guess my recommendation to this commission is to allow cyclocross to be, or allow a cyclocross track to be mown and maintained at the Vasa Trailhead, while management works in conjunction with MMRMA to ensure that risk is minimized at the site and minimized on the track.
All right, put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
All right?
I have one final question, if I may. Relative to any type of intense use in a small wheel type of aspect, there's potential for erosion and damage. How do you anticipate being able to deal with that? You constantly move the track to eliminate that, and if it does occur, then go back and repair it? I haven't heard an answer to that type of approach yet.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, part of a track like this would be to change it, pretty regularly, to keep it more interesting, and to also obviously keep the erosion and keep any kind of, wear to as much of a minimum as we possibly could, and, obviously repair any kind of areas that would need to be repaired. I mean, luckily, the way it seems like most of that area out there is pretty sandy.
Yes, it is.
So it seems to recover pretty quickly. But yeah, we obviously would be moving things around as far as the course goes, and any kind of maintenance that would need to be more than happy to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Our job is to make sure that everybody has the maximum opportunity to have fun, and so we're encouraged by your enthusiasm. See you next month.
All right, thanks.
Any additions to the agenda? If not, we'll move on to the consent calendar. And the consent calendar is one thing. We're going to vote on it all at once unless something is taken off. The first item is the Lutra Report Matrix. The next item is the Performance Measures Matrix, and the Performance Measures Committee is the third thing. The Scholarship Committee Report, and actually there is no report, is the next. The Rules Committee Report, there is no report, is the next. Pool RFQ, there's no news to report on that. And then the budget report of 12/7/10. There are no communications. There's a report on the Parks Commission's meeting per diems. No referrals. Approval is on the consent calendar of the minutes of the November 18 meeting. And Mr. Dorier, do you specifically have something you want to pull from this consent calendar?
Yeah, I want to pull the Performance Measures Committee.
Okay, that's number 3.
I'd like to pull the matrix.
Okay, that is number 2 from the consent calendar. Any members of the public or members of the board want anything else taken off? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as modified.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the modified consent calendar as presented.
I support.
Moved and supported, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. The first item removed from the consent calendar is the Performance Measures Committee report. And Mr. Dorier, what would you like to tell us about that?
Well, the Performance Measures Committee is made up of, Al Larson was the chairman, Bill Dorier and Scott Joseph were on the committee, Jason Jones attended all of the meetings. I believe we had 3 meetings in total. And we have produced a list of metrics, things that we would like for the department to measure and report on monthly. And those are included in our minutes of our meeting November 23rd, which is at page 9 of your package. And it's section E. There are 7 metrics, and what they are is, the first is the total number of participants in the baseball program. The program cost recovery for the baseball program is number 2. Number 3 is difference between the cost of running Easling Pool and the revenues that are generated. Number 4 is the total monthly pool attendance. Number 5 is the total number of pool memberships. Number 6 is an average daily swimmer to lifeguard ratio. And number 7 is the revenues and cost for each session of swimming lessons. Now we talked about these in some detail, and we talked about methodology for collecting data and for reporting these out. I believe that these are not going to be overly burdensome on the director or his staff to prepare these and present these and to review them monthly. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions on any of these? Any recommendations?
Well, certainly commend you and the rest of your committee for putting together such a good package for the board's commission's consideration.
Okay. A couple other things I'd like to throw in. The way I view this, at least personally, is this is kind of a live thing. I don't think we're going to implement this and then stick with it forever. I think as we go through them, we'll realize that some things need tweaking, maybe some additional metrics need to be added, maybe some of the things we've recommended are not going to be as valuable as we thought, so we'll delete those, and it'll be up to this board to make recommendations as we move forward in terms of things that we want to measure.
I have a-
Yes.
Bob?
The average participation ratio, exactly what do you do with those figures? On page 7?
Oh, okay, that's getting back out of my
That's the next
section.
item on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
That's into Kim's going to talk about the performance metric report itself. What I was doing was just talking about the list of measures that we want to implement for the whole department. You know, they've already started. That's what this page 7 is.
Okay.
Is a start at some of reporting some of the information. And she'll address that. So I guess what we want to do is make a motion to approve the metrics as presented by the subcommittee.
Okay. There is also, I have an October 7 Performance Metrics Subcommittee meeting report. Was that sent to everybody?
No, that was sent to, that came out of Al's email, and we're a little confused as to why he sent, that's an earlier meeting.
Okay.
Al sent those, yeah.
That doesn't,
Al emailed those in, because Al's not here, he's the chair of that committee. He wasn't able to be here this evening, so he sent that on to the folks on the committee in order to report that back to this commission.
okay,
That
thanks.
does include all 7 metrics, but it just has more narrative about the metrics.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great. Well, Bill, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve the suggested metrics as listed in the subcommittee, the Performance Metrics Subcommittee minutes from November 23rd, Section E.
Is there support?
Support?
Further discussion?
Have these minutes been approved?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, these, I believe they're under receive and file of, it didn't say draft or approved minutes. Well, if it says,
The draft watermark is on there, it's just it didn't reproduce well. But those minutes were approved at a meeting this evening, just prior to this meeting.
just a couple of questions. If they're draft minutes, is this premature? Number one, the whole committee's not here. We normally receive and approve the minutes, and then we talk about the measures. But again, I want to echo, I'm grateful for Yeoman's work. I'm glad it doesn't burden staff too much, so that's my discussion. I'm in support of it.
And I like Bill's comment that it's a malleable document. It's something that we can change as we see we need or don't need certain information, so that's good. Any further discussion?
I'd like to just add that there are 2 other metrics that are somewhat outstanding, one being a metric related to safety performance, as well as a customer satisfaction survey tool. I just wanted to add that those will be added as they're fleshed out a little bit farther down the road. Specifically the safety performance metric. I've asked Kim to do some research related to safety performance, specifically related to the pool, although we're finding it difficult to put a measure on how safe the pool is. You know, we don't want to count near misses because we don't want to overcount those. I think what we may have to move towards, and it's something I'd bring up with this commission, is moving towards more of a benchmarking type of opportunity to do additional trainings. What do you call them, white cap trainings?
Yeah, or VAT trainings, there's a
uh,
couple different names for them.
A specific training
It's
for
a
the
type of drill.
a specific training specifically for the pool, to show what we're doing to be proactive, to make that performance metric more realistic versus counting something that has not happened at the pool.
All right, we ready for a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, Kim, now you'd like to talk about the performance measures matrix, which I believe is on
Thank
the
you.
previous page in the packet there, page.
Yeah, Jason's
7.
actually going to be handing out to you an updated one. I noticed this afternoon there was a typo on it where it has the average participant ratio. It said 9.2 instead of 9-2, so I've made that correction. Another thing that was asked of by the Performance Measures Committee was the revenues and expenditures, so I've added that onto that line item as well. One thing I want to talk about with the revenues and expenditures is you'll see it, the expenditures stay pretty consistent throughout the year. You'll see the revenues have lows and highs. November is a low because we are wrapping up things like high school swimming, breakers, that kind of thing. So they have been billed, and you will see that as long as they pay their bill, I guess. You will see that when you see the December numbers. Also, swim lesson registration, swim lessons run 5 to 6 weeks, typically. So November hit a month where there wasn't any swim lesson registration coming in as well. So we started a session at the end of October. So like I said, you'll see those revenues have highs and lows, and November is a low, so.
Would it, typically in situations like this, it helps to put in the year-to-date along with the current month? Would that help you? I mean, I know that's not a lot of work.
Yeah, I can do that. It's also included in the packet
Yeah,
with the budget stuff that's already there.
okay. Never mind.
Just as a point of clarification, I asked Kim to take this information directly from the budget report you guys, this information will be taken on a monthly basis from the budget report you receive here in this packet for consistency's sake.
Okay.
I'd also like to let the commission know that because of when that budget report's done, in order for it to get in this packet, you're not seeing here just the month of November. You're seeing a portion of October, you're seeing a portion of November. And I think this was printed December 1st, so you're not seeing any December revenues or expenditures here. So I wanted this commission to know that you're not getting a glimpse of, December 1 or November 1 to November 31st. You are going to see that, and it should be consistent with the budget report that you receive in each packet.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
page 9, the performance metrics, number 7, that the committee worked so hard on, the revenues and costs for each session of swimming lessons. Am I seeing that in your matrix, Kim? Am I missing that?
Not yet, no. I haven't
Oh,
got,
That's forthcoming.
Yep.
Okay, great.
The reason that that's something that you will not see on a monthly basis because we have 4 different swim sessions throughout the course of the year, so you'll see that 4 times. Similar to items number 1 and 2 related to baseball, you'll see those throughout the course of the baseball program, but will not see those August through May.
Okay.
there was
So-
in last month's packet, the quarterly report from the summer session.
So am I correct in understanding the revenues and expenditures in November? The revenue was at roughly 8,000 and expenditures were 27,000 for the month, and some months being higher and lower in expenditures and revenues. So how do we look at the big picture rather than this
Yeah.
monthly snapshot?
That's information that you can find in that budget report that we give you. In fact,
Okay.
if you went to if you go to Civic Center Swimming Pool page, which is page 23, you'll see that our expenditures year-to-date are $316,363, in that our revenues to date are $234,223.26.
Okay.
So this information is included in your budget packet, or in the budget as part of this packet.
It's
What,
a lot of moving, or I'd like to have it on one page.
And that was kind of the heart of my suggestion for having the year-to-date there. You know, I realize that you're stuck with this county budget system. I need to be careful here how I say this. It's not usable for a board like us.
well, I was just asking a question. What is the purpose of our needing this data? Are we micromanaging or no?
Fiduciary responsibility.
Most of that data has come out of recommendations from the Lutra report. Like Bob, you asked about the lifeguard to participant ratio. That's something specifically cited in a number of different areas in the Lutra report about excess staffing of the swim pool for lifeguards. So that helps us monitor if that is an improving statistic.
And I think the goal of this, too, is to come to some consensus as to what we as a board wanted to see, rather than each individual commissioner might have some but some specific requests, and then that overburdens staff because they're getting nine different requests for reporting data.
Does this make life simpler for you?
This performance metrics is something that this commission deems or feels is important. It's something that we can be supportive of. We track a majority of these numbers, and the majority of the work is starting these metrics. Once we track them from month to month, the work is minimal.
I guess.
Is the committee going to work on metrics for the other functions, too? Or just the pool and the...
Well, this was viewed as a overall metrics for the entire department.
Okay.
That's why you see a little baseball,
Okay.
you're going to see pool.
So, those
Lakes isn't on the list. Twin Lakes.
those requirements on page 9 are going to be applied to Twin Lakes and
I'm just
baseball?
asking, okay, that's an expense and income revenue generating part.
That wasn't specifically talked about as a...
I'm just curious.
Okay.
If I recall from the conversations within that committee, part of the issue is realizing that we've had, because of some of the changes with the state laws, we've lost some revenue out there, and until the business plan's put together specifically for that park to bring in additional revenues, we've held off on that performance metric for now.
That makes sense.
As Commissioner Dorier said, this is a malleable project, and once that new business plan is in place, which is part of the strategic plan that you guys put together, then we'll be able to measure things more appropriately.
And quite honestly, on our list here, there are a few hot buttons. A few hot topics that have, been kicked around, and what my aim there is to get some numbers behind it so we know what we're talking about.
But this addresses baseball and the Easling Pool.
Pretty much.
Where there are going to be other metrics that the committee developed for the Howe Arena, for Civic Center in general.
Potentially down the road, yes. But for now, these are the things that we thought were the hottest and the needed the most attention for right now.
All right, sounds good. There's no action needed on your pool metrics, is there? Kim, you pulled that off the agenda?
No, and I asked Kim to put this on the agenda before the performance metrics were approved, just to give the commission an idea of what we're going to be looking at once those performance metrics are approved, and for your review. If there's any input or anything like that, please email me after the meeting. That way we can make sure that we get this information to you in a
I
manner.
heard Kevin say receive and file. Is there a motion to receive and file this report? By Kevin?
Support?
Support by Russ. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right. We're on to old business. The first item is the potential creation of a finance committee. I think you have Jason's memorandum in here. Anybody have any questions or wish to create such a committee?
I just have a comment. The reason I had this added to the agenda is the minutes from last month's meeting where Commissioner Max Bauer, and I quoted this in my narrative, Commissioner Max Bauer's quote is, I'd like to recommend consideration by the Parks and Rec Commission for next year a finance committee to oversee the finances of the Parks and Recreation Department. I added this. I don't know that her intent was for us to take action on this. I was going to leave that decision to this commission. It was put on the agenda in the event you wanted to take action on it. This is something that certainly could be tabled to next month. But because there was some ambiguity there, I preferred to err on the side of caution and add this to the agenda. So you have my recommendation in regards to this issue, and it's kind of a decision of the commission.
Well, I think we should put it off till next meeting also, because Christine's not here, and she was the one, I guess, that brought up this idea. Do you want to discuss it, or you just want to put it off?
I do want to discuss it, thanks. I just basically, and I appreciate Director Jones erring on the side of caution, putting it on the agenda. There seems to be a misconnect between the truly micromanaging of moving funds from line items versus our fiduciary responsibility in creating a budget and monitoring the budget, and we're just starting to get our arms around that. So I was prepared to make a motion tonight that we call it a budget committee, not a finance committee, and get a committee established to, as Commissioner Doria just said, we have this reams of paper, this budget. That's one of my goals, is reduce that down into a format that we can understand, and we'll discuss in the next meeting, and possibly create a process or policy on how we create the budget every year, how we monitor it, and how we report it. We're reporting with reams of paper that I don't think the majority of members understand, and we've got new commissioners coming on next year that will need to understand this. It gets to be like a shell game. You've got 14 different budget departments, and I would hope to simplify it so that we can all understand it. So I feel the need for a budget committee.
I appreciate your remarks very much, and thank you for verbalizing what I've been thinking all along, but more understandably. Thank you.
I have a comment. The gist of Commissioner Max Bauer's comments at the last meeting concerned budget transfers, and I'm opposed to forming a committee to keep an eye on that. I think that's micromanaging, and I don't think it's necessary. The budget system is a little unfortunate, with all the different pages that we need, but I don't see a need to create oversight of simple budget transfers. I think that's
Well, I agree. Isn't that what you were saying?
There's a fine line between the two, and I know as a department head running these budgets and working with this system, that it is the director's responsibility to move funds within line items, within these. I have one budget center, he has 14 budget centers. It's very complicated. But I think what Commissioner Max Bauer may have alluded to, I can't speak for her, is that there appears within these 14 budget centers, there may be some fat, for the lack of a better word. And I think if we really get our handle on this budget next year and really know and see some past and future trends, we can understand and adopt and vote on an accurate budget. I heard that comment was made that we really need to understand the budget, understand our fiduciary responsibilities in order to accurately vote on a budget. I think we're missing that mark.
I still see the need to defer this until Commissioner Max Bauer is here. And Kevin, you're talking about a standing committee, and I will not really support any standing committee unless the scope of this committee's work is defined in writing and everybody gets a chance to debate that and craft it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I echo that because my motion had a timeline. Just like the performance measures that Commissioner Larson had drafted, I really support the statement in there that committees should be minimized. If it's work that the commission needs to do it a whole. And I also bring this up because we started a budget policy review that we were trying to bring to this board, and it didn't take momentum. And if you look at Commissioner Larson's governance policy, you'll see that this is a good reason to get a minor committee that has a lifespan a beginning and an end, to create a policy to bring to this board. So that's the start of the discussion for next month. Thank you, Mr.
Well, I would encourage someone to make a motion to refer this to the January 20th Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
So moved. Excuse me.
Moved by Karsten, supported by Dwyer.
There you go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. NMC parking lease termination. Nobody's parking there, eh?
We haven't had the parking that either we thought or more importantly, the NMC thought they would have. NMC is paid up to date for the lease up until this point, and they've asked that we terminate the lease. There is not a specific termination clause within the agreement. Therefore, I brought it to this commission. My recommendation would be to approve termination of this lease while we enjoy the additional revenue associated with leasing this property. We also have a good partnership with NMC, and because we're not providing services to them, I don't know that it's necessary for us to continue this with this lease.
Okay. Discussion?
They paid $6,520 for minimal use.
Correct.
It's unfortunate. I move to approve the termination of the lease with NMC for parking at the Civic Center as agreed to in the document dated August 19th, 2010.
Support. Support by Clark. Any further discussion? Jason?
Their original letter to us was November 16th. And we got this after our last commission meeting. We actually received this in the mail. And they were hoping that this would be a 30-day notice of termination. So if this board feels it appropriate, and Commissioner McEllier, if you feel this is appropriate, could we make that termination effective December 16th as of today?
Well, because the term of the lease ran through December 10th, so you're trying to extend the lease?
You can make it, I just was hoping I was hoping for you to add to the motion, either it be done on the 10th or be done on the 16th.
I think the intent was to end it after the first term.
Which my motion references a lease with a date. The lease was entered into August 19th, and that lease says it ends December 10th. So it's already ended, so I don't understand why they still want to use it.
No, there's an additional term, though. Additional term beginning January 14th.
Right, the motion is to end it at the end of the first term, which is December 10th.
To end this lease period, yeah.
So they're not on the hook for the next term, which starts January 14th.
Correct.
Everybody clear on that? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, here's the board governance policy. Commissioner Larson was unexpectedly called away, but he has distributed both through Maryland today and on your board or on your desks a proposed governance policy. I don't think that Al was expecting any action. He was just expecting to discuss it, but not being here, he can't discuss it. I doubt if any of us can discuss it.
We were supposed to meet with, Jason and Dennis Aloya, but because of the snowstorm, we were unable to do that. If we had had that meeting, discussing it might be germane, but since we haven't had that meeting yet, I think we need to have that before it comes before us.
But do you want this on the next agenda, Bob, or just want to wait and see what happens and then put it on the agenda?
It'd be appropriate for the next agenda.
Next agenda.
Okay. All right, well, I'll just ask Jason to please put this on the next agenda in consultation with Al and Bob, and we'll move on. New membership, pool membership for county employees, gratis free is the recommendation. You want to address this, Jason, Kim?
Actually, this is an idea that Kim came up with in an effort to be more proactive with our. I guess I should back up. The County Board of Commissioners approved a 4%, 6%, and 8% cost sharing for insurance benefits or health insurance benefits for full-time employees. Kim came up with an idea after talking with our Human Resources Director about the possibility of offering free swimming, and I'll let Kim move into this, offering free swimming for county employees in an effort to help offset some of that cost or to create a healthier employees. So I'll let Kim talk a little more about that.
Yeah, actually, it's something that a lot of big corporations do. In the last Park and Rec district that I worked for, actually, their policy was anyone that worked for the park district and anyone under that insurance got free membership to, and we had 7 pools and plus 2 additional outdoor ones in the summer, workout facilities, basketball courts. So, I mean, it was a much bigger package that you were getting. And what I'm proposing, though, however, is just that the county employee itself get a free membership to the pool. I see that as working in 2 ways. One, it would encourage some good, healthy lifestyle. It would show, as we go out for bids for insurance in the next couple of years again and stuff, that, you know, we're doing something to get our employees active and healthy. And secondly, if, you know, one person's coming and doing it and their buddy down the street wants to come, you know, that might bring in some additional revenues to the pool too, because we'll instantaneously get, you know, 500 members. I think the county employs 530 full-time employees, I think is what the number is. And, you know, if they're coming to Open Swim and bring in their neighbors with them, that will help generate some revenue to the pool as well, so.
Bill, have you anticipated how many of the county employees may be interested in this? That's a tough thing to guess.
It is. It would be given to all, I think the number was 530. How many would take up on it?
You don't know?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how it's going to impact us. And the other thing, I should know this, but I don't. What is the cost of an annual membership?
Oh, goodness.
Well, you should know it.
I know, and I just answered this question, right? The last phone call I took was reading those numbers off to somebody, too.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I want to say for a county resident, it's $200 to $300.
Okay.
$330 is what Jason's thinking,
And that's an annual membership?
an annual.
Kim, when do you see this most impacting the use?
I would see, or when would I?
Like at morning swim or some of the open swims or?
I don't know, it would depend on who decides to, I mean, if a family decides, if it was a family like mine with young kids, I'm going to use the open swims and stuff. If it's, a retired or, someone close to retirement with grown kids, they might just be choosing to use a lap swim time.
So the membership is for families too, not just
No, it would
employees?
just be for the employee.
Good.
But if I had a free membership, my kids are cheaper, and I would be, more apt to bring them if I get in free.
Mr. Chair, those are my concerns. What impacts? It's a great idea. We got to give you, thinking outside of the box, creative marketing, and how you say by osmosis, you bring in more members. I'm a little concerned about the impacts of 500 non-paying employees. 500 times $300, that loss of revenue. Maybe a reduced county employee pilot program. And before that, as fellow commissioners have been asking, what impacts will it have? What does LUTRA say about it?
LUTRA doesn't make a recommendation like this.
And on that note, then, where are we with the LUTRA recommendations? I could see if we've implemented all of LUTRA recommendations and we're still not hitting the mark, then maybe it's time to think outside the box and do something like this.
Well, where I'm at with the LUTRA recommendations, as you see in your packet, you get the update. My main focus for this year is working on those memberships. I kind of did a lot of the low-lying fruit, sort of say, and now I'm reaching for some of those bigger ones now that we got some of the small stuff out of the way. And membership and membership retention is my focus this year. So this would be kind of a kickoff to getting some of that membership in. don't have very much of an advertising budget. And so this would be a fairly cheap way to do that. It's also going to help with county employees' morale.
Yep.
There's a lot of people kind of frustrated about having to chip in that 4, 6, or 8%. And so this would be something to, kind of say the county's understanding that and doing that. Quite honestly, the only county building with employees close to us is the facilities. And there's only one employee over there right now that comes over and lap swims. I don't anticipate a lot of those guys coming in. And, as for, the health department, being far away, unless we're on somebody's way home, I don't necessarily think we're going to see a rush of 530 people coming in all at the same time to use the facility.
Bill?
How are you anticipating communicating this to the employees?
That's something that I would work on with Human Resources.
Just as a suggestion, I was thinking as we were talking, I was thinking maybe we ought to limit this and make some sort of a pilot out of it. But rather than set a numeric limit, maybe we ought to just make this a one-time, one-year offer. That might encourage people that would think about it to maybe go ahead and sign up. And then we can evaluate it at the end of the year and see if it's impacting our operations, if it's costing us money that we weren't anticipating. It's just a suggestion.
Or could we even shorten that to be a 3-month or a 6-month, realizing that
Sign up now?
sign up now, because right now, winter and spring, this may be a good opportunity for us to do that. Winter and spring, we typically see our lowest, winter, we typically see our lowest numbers of swimmers, with the exception of summer.
Okay.
So this may actually be a good time, starting in January, especially with the employees who may have better health as a New Year's resolution. Say it's a 3-month thing that gets us into April, which our heaviest enrollment in swim lessons and our heaviest swimmers do come in the spring in preparation for summer. So that, I think a pilot program may be a good option, and I think it may benefit us doing it in January through, say, the beginning of April may be a good opportunity. We already have the infrastructure in place to offer a 3, 6, or 12-month membership.
Kevin?
Mr. Chair, I'm getting a loud voice in my head that we represent all the citizens' needs. I have a little bit of concern about singling out the 500 county employees and giving this benefit. Perhaps a pilot, maybe we need more time to think about this, but maybe a pilot program of 50% to all county residents would be more fair and appropriate. I'm hesitant to go down this road of creating a benefit just for county employees. I know they've received raises. All county citizens are suffering right now, so.
The bulk of the county employees are unionized.
Correct.
There has been no request by the union at the bargaining table for this benefit.
Correct.
And in fact, we don't have anything from Mr. Aloya or the county board. While I applaud you for thinking of new things, I'm not in favor of this at all. I don't see where it advances any of our goals. Further discussion?
Yeah, I disagree with you. I think more members in the pool is what we were after. And I think this would bring more people into our pool. I also think it provides a health benefit to county employees, above and beyond what they've negotiated. So I'd like to see us implement something. I think there would be some ways to put some parameters on it to protect us.
I'm sorry.
I'm done.
I know, too, that if you get something for free, you value it less than if you pay for it. And maybe if the board wants to do something, I can't say I'd be in favor of it, but I'd be less opposed to a discount of some sort than a total freebie.
Mr. Chair, then on one more note, initially, right, we're very grateful for you bringing this to the board's attention. You've got some free advertising with the county communicator program. Yeah, maybe if you could use that as a venue to advertise to all county employees, the pool hours, your recommendations when you have You mentioned open swim time is when you would go as a county employee. I think if you advertise that in the county communicator, county employees may take advantage of it.
Further discussion? Anybody got a motion? All right, we'll go on to the next item of business. NER agreements. Jason, you have a recommendation to renew it?
Yeah,
Would you like to discuss?
I've made a recommendation to renew the NER agreement, and this is something that we've had an agreement since 1993 with the Conservation District in regards to management of the Natural Education Reserve. I've asked Ben Purdy and Luke Coulter from the Conservation District to come and kind of give an introduction about this lease or this management agreement and answer any questions that the commissioners may have. So if you guys would like to come up.
You guys could state your name and your address and your titles with the SCS.
Good evening. I'm Lou Coulter. I'm the director of the Grand Traverse Conservation District, and I live at, I can give you that address too, but I live at 16550 Center Road, Traverse City. Let me just tell you that I brought Ben here because I'm here because Jason invited me, but I thought you might want to talk to somebody who actually knows something, so I brought Ben along. Ben is our Parkland Program Manager, Coordinator, and manages a number of other properties, including Brown Bridge Quiet Area for the city, Garfield Township's property on the Boardman River and the Commons, and Hickory Meadows, the Rec Authority's property, and the Natural Education Reserve, which, as Jason says, we've been managing on your behalf since 1993, which has been a great partnership from our perspective, and even more so now that we've built the Boardman River Nature Center, and it's serving as a community hub for using the trails out there, and it's been really gratifying to see that. And so I'm hopeful you'll continue this arrangement, because I think it's been good for both parties. And Ben can tell you more about the specifics of what we've done out there in the past year and what we see happening going forward.
Thank you, Lou. Ben Purdy, Grand Traverse Conservation District. I live at 1892 Pinewood Avenue, Traverse City. And Lou gave a good introduction there. Just a few highlights. Last year, we coordinated with over 40 volunteers who put in over 315 hours at the Natural Education Reserve. That's one of the things we're able to do is leverage community involvement for the betterment of the parks. We've also secured to date $25,500 towards a $34,000 boardwalk replacement on the Natural Education Reserve. So that's an exciting project. It's for the Fox Den Boardwalk, which is just north of the Nature Center. It's probably the most used boardwalk, and it dates from the late 70s. It's very narrow. It's becoming a little bit in disrepair, so we're hoping to expand that to a 6-foot wide boardwalk to be much safer, much more enjoyable for classrooms of children and also just members at large. We've also secured a $935,000 grant for invasive species control and removal. That's for the 5-county area, and we'll be working with 16 different partners in our region. And part of that grant will create a invasive species management and removal plan for this property. So we're excited about that, to get started with that in the spring. I would be happy to answer any questions that the commission has at this time.
Okay. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Ben. Mr. Jason, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to also clarify, in the past, and I should have clarified this in my introduction, in the past, this agreement has been with Grand Traverse County versus the Parks and Recreation Commission. Because of the changes in our bylaws back in March, it was appropriate that this renewed agreement now be with Parks and Recreation Commission versus Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. So I also wanted to make you aware of that.
And Bob, you're on the Nature Education Reserve
Advisory Board, yes.
Advisory Board. Okay. I think we've got some exciting times coming up if the dams are removed, at least from one perspective. I know there's another legitimate perspective, but from the perspective of stewards of parks, there's going to be a big change. And I noticed here that there is a document that I confess I'm not familiar with, the Boardman Pond or the Bottomlands Management Plan for the Boardman and Sabin Ponds. Can you tell us a little bit about what that says, or what you anticipate is going to happen, and what's the involvement of the Nature Education Reserve in that newfound dry land or mucky land?
That plan is forthcoming. It's under development right now as part of the larger Boardman River Dams removal process. It's something that myself and colleague Steve Largent are heavily involved in cooperation with CRA and the various other partners of the dam removal process. So in that plan, we can expect not only environmental mitigation techniques for dealing with sediment movement and things like that, but also a recreational component of the plan that deals with trails and recreational access to the river and things of that sort. I might note that there is an application for approval in Blair Township, I believe, for a canoe livery on River Road, and it's germane to this commission because the only places for a takeout downstream of this livery are at county-owned facilities, specifically the Beitner Canoe Landing. And so that's kind of a new issue, the commercial use of the Boardman River in the Natural Education Reserve. The advisory committee is meeting next week, and this is a topic that they'll be discussing. So this commission can look forward to a recommendation from that body in that respect. But you're right, there'll be some big changes for the river and for the parkland that borders it.
And you can't bridge Sabin Pond, but at some point you will be able to bridge Boardman River. And I think a lot of the plans, including the Nature Education Reserve Plan, correct me if I'm wrong, encourages non-motorized bicycle and foot traffic. And we need to find some way to get from the YMCA to Sabin Dam area across the river, because you can't ride a bike any further on those boardwalks or anything. There's too much of a conflict and too much of a danger. So we got to get across the river somehow, and I'm just wondering if anybody's really addressing that or looking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been part of the long-term vision for that property, and part of this commission's long-term trail plan is to cross there and continue south to the active recreation complex there on Keystone Road, and then actually continue on farther into the Kingsley area.
Good.
So we're definitely looking at that. Garfield Township recently received a Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant to acquire some land on the east side of Boardman River, so that could be another potential future corridor for non-motorized transportation.
Great. Questions and discussion?
If I could, one more element of that management plan is the management of invasive species, which we expect to be a significant issue. And we recently, the Conservation District, recently received an EPA grant that's going to help us out in that regard, not only in the Bottomlands, but elsewhere throughout the county and throughout the Northwest Michigan, actually. So that was a blessing.
The scope of the work is, I think it reflects the county board a couple of places. Would that be changed to be the Parks and Rec Commission? Specifically in the reporting, paragraph 13.
Oh, certainly.
And insofar as the periodic reporting, I assume that that'll be done with this commission as opposed to the county board, because we're the other side of the county.
It's actually done both places, but yes.
Okay. Kevin?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. First of all, Lou, Ben, Steve Largent in absentia. We saw him pass by here recently. I bet you probably wanted to lasso him in here to speak about the Bottomlands issue. I think you're doing great work out there. Support the effort. Two questions on the contract, and the one you could probably answer it the best. This talks about a management plan without having the actual previous contract with me. Could you discuss with that management plan and how long that management plan has been going on? I don't understand the details, except that you're maintaining boardwalks and issues like that.
Sure.
Is it a recent scope of services, or has that been going on in perpetuity?
We recently worked with the advisory committee to develop that management plan, and it was approved by this commission last year. And that does not include the Bottomlands. That will be covered in a separate management plan that I said is forthcoming. So yes, we do have a management plan that we are working under as a set of guidelines for the property.
Okay.
And I can certainly provide that electronically or hard copies if you like.
Why I ask that, because this price, Jason, 46-some thousand, I believe, yes, and change, is based on continuation with that management plan. So 2 years ago, what was it without the management? So you're going to continue performing the management plan at this same rate. I just wonder, what was it without the management plan?
I think the management plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lou, this is kind of getting back to when Tim was here. I think the management plan just more formalized the work that you guys had done for several years out there, correct?
Right. We had annual work plans that we worked out largely with Tim, and the management plan formalized that and put things more comprehensively and cohesively together. But the price, this is the same price as it has been for the past 3 years.
That's what I wanted to hear,
Yeah,
because it just mentions here, this is the same price as last year. So if 2 years ago it was a $12,000 contract, I needed to ask that.
Yeah, that was one of the major differences between the last 2 years of the contract and the previous 2 years, that there was a formalized management plan, and that is the same cost associated with this, and this is the continuation of that management plan, and any additions, deletions, or changes that may occur to that based on the needs of the facility.
And I assume you charge Garfield some fee, and do you figure out how, do you just take all your costs and then divide them up according to the basis of how much work you think each one is?
We also have a record of how much effort we put into, how much staff time, how much of our resources we've used, and that sort of thing, yeah. It's I think it's appropriately dispersed or distributed.
All right.
Mr. Chair, one last question. Jason, I appreciate you putting together the changes in the contract, A through F here, but it appears page 52, number 14, it ends, wait a minute, page 14, excuse me, page 51.
There's one page there that's
5114A, it ends there, and it looks like there should be something further. Are we missing?
Oh, I believe
Page out of place.
there's one page out of place. So actually, the end of 51 then goes on to 53.
Right.
I apologize. 52 got shuffled into the wrong spot when this got printed.
So 52 goes behind
Okay, I stopped
53.
So go
reviewing
to
after Schedule A. and-
51,
Okay.
53, then to 52 is the attachment.
The recommendation is to make a motion to approve the agreement for the resource management services with the Grand Traverse Conservation District from January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2013. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
So moved.
Mr.
Support.
Karsten, seconded by Mr. Hellier. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Ben, if you could get that electronically to Jason or Marilyn so he or she could distribute it to us, that'd be great, that management plan.
I'd like to just make a comment on, with regard to the invasive species. I was at the Grand Vision Natural Resources Network meeting 2 days ago, and there was a gentleman who came to that meeting from Wisconsin, and he's moving into this area, and his business is in garnering large quantities of native species seeds and utilizing them as a way to counter the invasive species by using large numbers of native species seeds. He says having large quantities of those is not something that's usually at hand. Anyway, I hadn't heard of that approach. It makes sense. And so I just wondered if you had been aware of any literature or anything else? I'm just aware of how far Wisconsin is now ahead of us in a lot of forestry management and natural resource protection and
I know
things
that
like that, so-
Michigan State University has a very large seed bank program where they collect seed to preserve biodiversity and things of that sort of.
But have they been actually using them to counter and to preventive invasive species that you know of?
I don't know that.
And just, I hadn't heard of this before, and he brought it up as a measure. I just thought it was extremely interesting. And he's apparently planning on staying in this area and hopes that programs along that line will be instituted. And I just thought I would bring it up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item is the aquatic report, aquatic manager's report dated December 16. You've all had a chance to review that. Have any further comments, Kim, or any questions of Kim?
I'll just update you really quickly on the staffing situation. It says that we've interviewed for a clerical assistant to be in the pool office 18 hours a week. We have formally offered that position to somebody, and she is anticipated to start January 3rd, at least in human resources, but be in the pool area, well, in the pool office, starting on the 4th, so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Kim, is that clerical assistant an additional person or is she replacement?
She is an additional person, as per the Lutra report recommendation, to have somebody in the office all the time.
And we've accounted, and that's part of the budget?
Yeah, what we've been doing right now, since we did have a clerical person in there up until August, doing 40 hours a week. It was a temporary position. And then when she left this fall, what we've been doing is trying to run it with lifeguards. We're having a lot of consistency issues and stuff. So the schedule has her in there 18 hours a week, and it kind of balances out the lifeguards a little bit differently as well, so.
Okay, any others? Thank you very much. Director's report.
I just wanted to hit on, I'm not going to go through every item in the report unless commissioners have questions. First thing I'd like to hit on, though, is the MRPA conference attendance. Within your packets, I've included the pre-conference brochure related to the 2011 MRPA conference that's going to be held here at the resort, February 8th through the 11th.
I can't read a lot of it because of the way because it comes out as a PDF. I noticed that Commissioner Clark, lucky guy, has got a colored copy.
I went to the website.
Oh, he went to the website.
I went to the website.
I'm happy to send you the link.
Okay.
As commissioners, have you been receiving information from MRPA?
I have not.
Okay, because all of our commissioners are as a commissioner, you become a member of the Michigan Recreation and Park Association, so I will check to make sure that they're getting the information to you properly.
Yeah, my Hotmail account was pirated by somebody, and I can no longer use it, so.
Okay, I will, actually, what I'll do is I'll have Marilyn contact you and coordinate that.
Thank you.
And that has a link, and there's actually a website. Actually, you know what, I've got a save the date card that I can give you with the website specifically to that brochure.
All right, thanks.
So what we have, the conference is going to be here February 8th through the 11th, and I would encourage all the commissioners to attend, or I'd encourage as many of you to attend as possible. Within our 2011 budget, we have budgeted for 3 commissioners to attend at a full delegate rate, which is approximately $347, I believe is what it is for this conference. But there are also additional rates or smaller rates for commissioners that may want to attend just for a day or two or just for a session here and there. I'd strongly recommend your attendance at the conference. Specifically on February 10th, that's a Thursday, there are two sessions that would be interesting to this commission. One is in regards to recreation authorities, and that falls in line nicely with the strategic plan that you put together in talking about possible partnering with other municipalities. Following that session is a panel presentation about how parks and how successful communities deliver parks and recreation services. And this is kind of a unique situation because it will really showcase the 4 or 5 methods that have really worked historically here in the state of Michigan. And what I've done is put together panels from the city of Lansing, Ingham County, Meridian Township, and Meridian Community Education to talk about how all 4 of those entities work together, how they make sure they work in conjunction and make sure they don't step on each other's toes for the citizens in the Lansing area. I've also asked the Southeast Livingston County Recreation Authority to be there to talk about how they provide recreation services to 5 relatively small communities in Southeast Livingston County. The Rochester Avon Recreation Authority, which is a very unique authority in the fact that they provide just recreation. They do not provide any park services. They rely on the City of Rochester and the City of Rochester Hills, who they're affiliated with, to provide the parks. They simply provide recreation. And then finally, the Oxford Township is going to be there. And for townships in our state, they've got one of the most comprehensive parks and recreation programs. They're also located in Oakland County, who's got probably the most advanced parks and recreation department in the state of Michigan, but they're also a county. So they have some unique programs that the county offers that the city or that the township doesn't, and they're going to talk about how they interact. In all of these communities that offer successful parks and recreation programs, and this is an opportunity for the commission to kind of see how things work parks and recreation-wise in other communities. I've also I've invited Garfield Township's Parks and Recreation Commission, the City of Traverse City's Parks and Recreation Commission, and next Monday or Tuesday I'll be speaking with the Garfield Traverse City Recreation Authority and inviting their commissioners to come out and be a part of this and see this panel presentation. I think it'll provide a lot of insight and will show some of the things that we do well here. It'll also showcase some of the inefficiencies that we have here and how we can better work with other municipalities. So it would be great if you guys would look over this information, and if there's a day in particular or if you'd like to be there for the entire conference, to let me know by December 31st if it's possible. We have an early bird rate that we can receive if we register by January 7th. So our budget year starts January 1, and our first day back to work is January 3rd. So I have between January 3rd and January 6th to sign up commission. So if you guys could let me know what you'd like to attend, I'd be happy to coordinate that. And we do have funds budgeted specifically for you guys to attend this conference. This is a great opportunity because there's no mileage, no overnight stays, and the cost is essentially lower. Right. So we are the host community. It's going to happen here at the resort. And it's truly MRPA at its best.
Mr. Chair.
Kevin.
Jason, you mentioned a reduced economical rate for those 2 presentations that you're recommending. What is that?
You can attend those 2 sessions for $50. Great. And that's something to register for that. You have to let me know specifically because that is a special rate for our area commissioners because of the need, or I guess because of the opportunity to showcase that in our community. So that's something to let me know. And Thursday, each of the individual days do have their own price associated, and Thursday is the day that's heaviest with food because of the awards banquet that evening, and that's why I asked for that specific rate on Thursday.
You have to register for the whole day to attend the events on that, just a couple of events on that day?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So you can register for the whole thing or any specific day?
Correct.
Now, Jason, I couldn't find on the detailed schedule that Successful Community Parks and Rec delivery system. That's on Thursday, right?
That is on
Thursday.
Thursday.
Time on Thursday?
The Recreation Authority, the first one I highlighted was Recreation Authority Redux, and that's happening at 8:30. a.m. on Thursday. And actually, it is on there. 8:30 is Recreation Authority Redux on Thursday, and then at 10 o'clock is the Community Collaboration Ways to Deliver Parks and Recreation Services at 10 o'clock. And that's going to be, actually, those two sessions are going to be held in the same room at the resort. The copy isn't the clearest, but I can send you a link to that.
That's the session that you refer to in your memo as the successful community parks and rec delivery system? So that's where that's going to be addressed?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We didn't have the title finalized when I put this together for the commission. So it's a great opportunity. A lot of networking there, so you'll be able to network with other Parks and Recreation directors, Parks and Recreation programmers, other commissioners. Russ has asked that, and I guess it was kind of an idea of Russ, we do special interest summits at each conference, and the special interest summits are specific panel discussions for people that specialize in specific areas of recreation. We'd like to see more commissioners involved in MRPA, so we put together a commission special interest summit that would be a roundtable specifically for Parks and Recreation commissioners. I'd invite you to attend that on Wednesday at
1:30?
Wednesday at 1:30. That's going to be, the discussion there is going to be led by Commissioner Clark as well as a commissioner from the city of Midland. They're going to be kind of leading the discussion there. In the event, go ahead.
There's a pre-conference seminar on trails.
Correct.
But is that in the morning?
That's the morning of Tuesday, the first day of conference. Our opening session, we really get started on Tuesday at 3:30 with an opening session from one of our keynotes, Steve Ford.
Oh, okay, thanks.
And he's, in the Trail Summit leads up, it begins at, I believe, 8 o'clock. Yeah, 8:30 on Tuesday,
Okay.
and goes right up to that opening session at 3:30 on Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, great, thanks.
And if you'd like to attend the Trail Summit, same thing, let me know. I'd be happy to have you registered for that.
All right. Any other questions on that conference? Obviously, it would be great, the more this county commission could attend, the better represented we are, the better we'll be educated.
One last question, Jason. On Wednesday, there's a development of successful long-term partnerships, which seems somewhat similar to the community collaboration. Can you tell us anything about how that's different or similar?
What time did you say that was, Wednesday?
It's Wednesday at 9:15. It's the third column over.
I'm the conference chair, and I'm working with a variety of members of my committee, and I've got one committee member that's specifically in charge of putting session or creating the sessions. So I have not reviewed that specific session, so I wouldn't be a good person to relate that to. But looking at the session, it's going to be led by Michigan Youth Flag Football. So that's one of our vendor members. They may talk quite a bit about specifically introducing youth flag football to the community. And they'll more than likely, I can't hold them to this, more than likely that's going to focus specifically on partnerships between municipalities and private for-profit organizations. I don't quote me on that, but looking at the folks that are going to be presenting and what it's for, that's what I would believe that to be. So the sessions that I highlighted, that's going to be talking about partnerships and working from municipality to municipality.
Any other questions? All right, we are on our second public comment.
Wait, I have one last thing I want to bring up in my report.
Well, we're not on the
apologize.
second last comment.
I just wanted to remind the commission at our next meeting, January 20th, we are going to be discussing Parks and Recreation meeting dates for 2011. So February 2011 through January 2012. If we maintain, it would be great if you guys could all bring your calendars and possibly check on these dates. If we maintain the third Thursday as we have right now, our meeting dates in 2011 will be January 20th, February 17th, March 17th, April 21st, May 19th, June 16th, July 21st, August 18th, September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, and December 15th. I just want to give you guys a heads up in regards to that. I'll have Marilyn email you those lists of dates to make sure that there are no conflicts or anything that you guys would see as a problem with that. At this point in January, you guys are more than welcome to determine your meeting time and date, and if that's a discussion you'd like to have, it's something we can have that day. This room is available, I know, moving forward in 2011 on the third Thursday, as it has been for 2010.
Kevin?
Mr. Chair, thanks. Under directors, I was going to comment whether or not we still want to keep nighttime meetings while you were on that note. I wonder if we have a study of how much we did these nighttime meetings and we were paying overtime costs. Are we? Aren't you, Kim, are you being paid overtime?
I'm salaried.
Okay.
We do pay, the reason Kim's here, and we would pay overtime if Marilyn were here. Marilyn has she has a semester-long conflict that disallows her from being here.
That's what I recall, Jason. Anyhow, we did this because of public involvement, and so now that we've done it for a year, are we getting the public involvement, or should we move back to noontime? Maybe, I don't give director or staff orders. I'm just wondering, does the commission want to see those numbers? Perhaps when we discuss the schedule, if we can discuss if we want to stick with nighttime meetings versus daytime meetings, et cetera. What the consensus.
All right, that'll be one of the things to consider next month.
You bet. And then back on the director's report, I just want to briefly, did I hear last year you were going to, every month, you were going to speak about the strategic goals spreadsheet updates? I just want to remind of that, because I had some questions about, I wasn't here last month, but, so I was looking for this to be presented this month. Just to remind you, I'm not going to get into it now if you're not prepared to present it.
No, in fact, I did say that 2 meetings ago,
Okay.
and that's listed in my director's report, item number 1, where it says strategic plan, work plan update. I give a written response to what I've been doing in regards to that work plan that you were provided there. I didn't verbally discuss it today, but that is part of my director's report.
I see, I pulled that page with all the dates of the MRPA. Okay, so it's just taking a different format. I'll address it. There's some questions from the old one, as well as some updates that I had. A couple of old issues I would hope to see in the director's report next month. What's the update on the Maple Bay lease issue that we discussed? Am I seeing that in the director's?
That's not reflected. This commission wanted me to work with Bob Cooney on that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've been trying to work with Mr. Cooney. He was working on a jury trial that took several weeks, and then was on vacation for a few weeks. So I've been hounding Mr. Cooney about that and a couple different issues that I'd like to bring back to this commission, and I'm waiting for his response.
Mr. Chair, let me keep this simple. Basically, this topic is how do we keep track of old and new business or old items that are being worked on? Is it my responsibility to keep looking back through old packets and make sure things are getting done, or I'm not sure how to manage that?
It's a responsibility. Is that a question to me?
I don't have an answer, so yeah.
It's a responsibility that we take on, and it's a responsibility that we're working on. In working with someone else, we're kind of at their mercy. So it's something that we'll come back to you when we have a proper response from Mr. Cooney.
Great. At the same time, it was mentioned last month, the lease arrangement with Habitat Humanity and the Tea Party conflict was to be worked on, and I'm not seeing follow-through on that as well.
There is follow-through on that, and that's another Bob Cooney issue. This board directed me to work specifically with Bob.
And that's why I thought maybe in the director's report, if these are all listed with some kind of update, then I can be assured they're on the radar.
What you just held up, that's the strategic plan. The items related to Bob Cooney aren't part of our strategic plan.
So like what Kevin's saying is that as we, have this meeting and we say, well, let's talk about this next time, then maybe somebody make a list and, nothing here because couldn't talk to Bob Cooney, and just keep a running track of the various commitments that are made at at these board meetings.
I'll have Marilyn create a list for our next meeting.
That'd be great, because also at the October meeting, we asked about the DNR rec plan, and commissioners expressed an interest to come up with a work plan relative to that. Commissioners expressed an interest on what the public comment ratio was going to work out, and so I know that you won't get to it till after the conference in December, but we are hoping to see some kind of work plan or outline regarding those details. So those are three major things that I'm being burdened to keep monitoring.
And I've reported in my director's report, in late December, I plan to begin working on some of the updates necessary for our DNR document. So I did report that here. It's part of the work plan that I've associated with that large piece of paper that you just held up. So that is something that we're addressing. It's something that we're working on.
Okay, so in the director's report, we'll have some kind of laundry list of all the various topics, and if you can't do something on it for 1 month because of a workload or something, you'll
It would probably be more
jot down.
beneficial we make it the even receive and file under consent agenda.
Sure, that'd be great. Okay, Kevin?
Thanks, so that's great.
Any other comments on the director's report?
I have to go back to the discussion about meeting dates, and I'm not trying to create a problem. If you guys have ideas for meeting dates, it'd be great to let us know, because if we're going to continue to hold them here and have the meetings videoed, either Marilyn and I Marilyn would check to make sure that this room's available at any time that the commission had. So if you have some ideas beforehand, if you want to email them to us.
Is there a consensus that the Thursday meeting schedule that we've been going by is something that Maryland should check on the availability of rooms for the next year?
Specifically evenings?
Yeah, same time, same place.
We know this one's
That's good for
open.
me.
We know this time is open for
Okay,
next year.
all right. All right, so get a hold of you if anybody's got some ideas, and check on the room availability. All right, Lou.
Thank you. Again, I'm Lou Coulter, speaking
still
as
Lou
a
Coulter?
citizen. Still am. Yep, my wife would, never mind. I just wanted to comment on the cyclocross opportunity. I'd look at it as, you seem to be pretty supportive, and I just wanted to encourage that support. My son participates in cyclocross in Grand Rapids, and I saw one race this year. I would say there were no more than 100 people there. I don't know how long they've been doing it, but this is a series of races this season that was every week for, I don't know, perhaps 8 weeks. So it's sort of a quirky little sport. I'm not expecting that there would be a whole lot of people engaged at first flush, but it was people of all ages participating, people of all ages spectating. It was very spectator-friendly because of its condensed course and so forth, and I would hope over time that you would have a parking problem out at the Vasa Trailhead. It's a great sign when people are recreating, and I appreciated your comment about the mission of this organization is to make sure that people in Grand Traverse County are having fun. That appears to be a very fun sport. It's a sport I'd take part in, and as a pretty heavy user for the of the Vasa Trail during the fall and winter months, I have no problem. I don't see any conflict with this, so I'd encourage that. Secondly, as a taxpayer, I would not have any problem with the county deciding that they wanted to give their staff a perk of some sort, especially if it led to better health and more recreation. So that's just a comment. I understand there are other issues as it relates to that. But thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you, Lou.
There's no other public, so there's no other public comment. How about board comment? I have a question or a comment, and that is regarding the fence at the Civic Center, which I guess I'd like to ask Russ if I had been contacted by a person who said that they were contacted by several persons about why do you have a fence around the Civic Center? It's not locked or anything. And it doesn't look good, in their opinion, and in my opinion. And it gives the wrong impression, I think, for a park. And so unless it serves some kind of legitimate reason, I'd encourage people to take it down. But I think Russ is graciously giving us a free civic center plan, so I'm thinking maybe he could address that fence question in that process.
I think that that's the proper place to address it. We'll be going through a public process of the users and the public in general on the vision for the park, and that's part of the vision, is the impression that the property gives from the public right-of-way. And the fence in certain areas, in my opinion, offers some safety along Fair Street where the trail is very close to the curb and there is no public sidewalk. That there's some type of barrier is important there for the little tykes on trikes and walkers. But a majority of that walkway is well away from the public transit edges of the curbs, and along Front Street, we have a public sidewalk, the fence, and then a fair amount of green space before our walkway begins, which offers a degree of safety just because of distance. And so I think those should be looked at in that master planning process as possibilities and prioritized accordingly.
Okay, thanks. Bob?
The fence line along Division, along Munson, to me, is fairly close.
Right.
And I could see times when young kids might be along the trail, just horsing around and stuff like that and chasing, but I can see a ball going out into the street. And it may not happen often, but I'm thinking in terms of safety, having that barrier there to keep things from leaving the park grounds and somebody running out into the street as a result of some activity that's taking place on the parkland. The fence keeps that from happening. And so I think it's, even though there may be some perceptions about the fence that may be negative, I think it does serve a really good safety purpose. And so
Other materials can be used in lieu of a chain link fence to offer safety as well, depending on the space we have to work with. So that should be part of the consideration of the master planning process.
the other thing is, it's Kim's idea of, I look favorably on that idea of affording employees a place to recreate at a cheaper rate or even free. But I also think the idea of having a shorter experimental time to do it, to see what the reaction is, maybe if it was only just like 2 months or something like that. But I think that's a good idea, and I really thank you for coming forward with it. But I like the idea of having experimental time that's very brief, just to see what the reaction is, and to go with something like that. That's all.
Any other comment? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Who supported?
Clark.